Welcome to Real Estate Wisdom Podcast, episode number 11, where we explore the intersection of real estate and community leadership. I'm your host, Vishal Kapoor, a realtor passionate about connecting people with their dream homes. In today's episode, we have Ron Chhinzer, an ex-cop and Conservative Party nomination candidate for Oakville North Burlington. Ron's background in law enforcement and gang prevention brings a unique perspective to our discussion on neighborhood safety, challenges faced by the police force, community crime prevention, and his vision for reforms and initiatives. Join us as we delve into specific strategies to address theft and break-ins, identify patterns, and explore measures for personal protection. So, get ready for an insightful conversation on real estate and community safety. Welcome, Ron.
Thanks, Vishal, for having me. I appreciate it.
Well, it's Thanksgiving today, and you're here. I know, just like cops in India, you were a little bit late, but we were just joking. No, you were not late. I really appreciate that you're here. And, congratulations. I know it's you putting forward your name for North Oakville Burlington riding.
That's correct. Yeah, I put my name in as a Conservative Party candidate nomination for this election to be able to represent Oakville North Burlington as the Conservative Party of candidate representative for where we've lived for the last 15, 20 years.
That's right. And your services to Toronto police force, like I said, it's incredible. And, you contributed a lot of volunteer time. I remember first time I met you at school when we did the workshop for parents. And
that was a couple of years ago.
It's more than 5 years ago now.
Yeah.
The COVID have created so much, it's like time is gone and so quickly. It's wonderful to hear that. You're always contributing. I know this is not your campaign yet. But before, hard to find you, and I thought I get you over here and talk about we all talk about the real estate wisdom over here,
yes.
But we're real estate also when people choosing their neighborhood and how they can protect themselves and how neighborhood safety is important these days. Unfortunately, that's what's happening. Things have changed. So we're going to discuss a lot of that. I know you do the group as well, like a WhatsApp group for neighborhood safety.
Yeah, we have a WhatsApp group for neighborhood safety in the area. We have a couple one for just a bunch of family members. There's one for the kids. You run a few.
Yes.
Everybody in our community is very tight, which is the perfect type of scenario you want for any community to come into to live into, which is why, again, we haven't left.
That's right, yeah. And now 7.
Yes.
Okay. I love that name. It's like an acronym. For North Oakville Ward 7. You contributed there. You also created the page for them. And
I did the website.
I've
now taken over for our now counselor, Nav Nanda, is running now 7.
Right.
We were just in a transition period over the last couple of months of me onboarding everything she'd been doing.
Right.
And then figuring out, where do we go from here? So I've been speaking with the mayor, some of the other counselors, kind of develop a big picture and be able to represent Ward 7 and a lot of the decisions that are happening in Oakville.
Yeah,
our voice does matter. I mean, we are the newest addition, a big pocket of Oakville, huge addition to it.
Right.
We have a pretty big voice. We are active in terms of showing up to vote, which is a critical thing for any community.
Oh, for sure.
So we have a lot of impact and a lot of influence.
Well, that's what I like about North Oakville is it's a new community, not new anymore. I've been there for 12 years now. It's incredible how the growth, but with the growth and everything, some challenges come as well. The latest challenges we were feeling after COVID is about theft and break-ins. Yeah. But when I was looking at the stats, we were thinking we were bad. But looking at the stats, we are actually one of the safest one, surprisingly. And we hear so much noise out there. Not only noise, people have genuine concerns, but at the same time, a lot of time people it just become a conversation rather than taking any action. I know you're a man of action, and you're always looking into the solution, just like I do. There's problems are there, but what are the solutions?
What do we do about it?
What we do about it, right? So what's the solution? So I know going back to your previous work, because your experience with that like help community a lot.
Big time.
Big insight. What challenges you guys felt, and what the reforms are needed, as well as looking into that what we can do right now. So for an ex-cop, what are your insight on the current state of neighborhood safety and the rise in theft and break-ins?
Look, that's such a complicated issue you bring up, but you bring up a lot of things even in your introduction to our neighborhood, for example.
Right.
When we talk about our neighborhood, I'll just use that as a case study.
Oh, for sure.
Our neighborhood is the best type of neighborhood I guess you could ask for, ideally. And I'm drawing from this from not just my experience as a police officer, but also, being in Canada, and I'd lived in probably 15 or 20 houses since I was a baby.
Right.
I've been in a bunch of different neighborhoods. I've policed Toronto and the region of Peel thoroughly for almost 20 years.
Right.
I have a vast experience in big city, small city, medium-sized city, and then now I work in the tech sector in an office in Hamilton.
Right.
So I see the gamut. And what I can tell you about all the places I've been into, all the communities I've been involved in, the benefit of our community is, you brought it up when you said, we don't have a major problem in terms of the crime stats, but it's enough that all of us collectively said, hold on, there's something happening here in our community and none of us like it.
That's right, for sure.
And the benefit of that is our community addresses all of the small things before they become big things.
Right.
And we've been actively trying to do it, but the crimes have continued to slowly increase and they become more invasive.
Yeah.
I mean, when you look at crimes like breaking into somebody's house, stealing their car, it's very personal and it's very, very invasive. They breach that line of, hey, this is my home and this is my property. Nobody should be allowed to come in here. And that invokes an emotional response from everybody to be like, holy cow, my house got broken into, where my kids sleep, where my wife sleeps, where my husband sleeps, where my neighbors are, where my kids play on the street. And that overly brash presence of crime from these criminals who are cowards, ultimately, it has a lasting impact, and it brings everybody together. So we talk about those type of crimes coming in, especially after COVID. Well, COVID happened at the same time as many other things happen in Canadian legislation as well as locally.
Right.
I mean, if you look back, and everything is 2020, so I don't want to be too harsh on my criticism,
right?
But I'll be fair.
Yeah,
right?
For sure.
Part of that criticism is, look, things were going kind of okay before COVID.
Yeah, it was like, I can tell you, I used to live in Burlington and even moved over here, and so many times happened. We left our door open. I don't have to worry about and I even my garage is open, and somebody will pass by and say, hey, your garage is open. My neighbor come in and he will text me or do it. Still we do, but it's never an issue. Somebody's coming over, they want to drop off something, we just say just leave behind the door, kind of stuff. But things have changed. Now even we get suspicious as a community. Even somebody's coming to bring the pie for Thanksgiving, and they said, why he was in my property, right? Yep. What's going on? And that's created a lot of issues as well, which is sometimes not serious, but we make it serious. Yeah. And we started looking people, suspiciously, right? That's the biggest disadvantage we have. But yeah, you're right. It's things have changed. During
we have no choice.
Yeah,
we have no. Every time you read the newspaper article, you look at our group chats in our neighborhood, the Facebook messages. Somebody's been a victim of a crime, and we're talking about crime and obviously all that stuff. But it does have a direct impact to real estate. I mean, you tell me, if you were to have $1 million right now,
right?
And to be fair and non-judgmental, but let's be honest here.
Right.
If I were to give you, let's say $2 million, because that's what it takes now to buy a house.
Oh, for sure.
And I say to you, Vishal, you're a smart guy. You've been in real estate. You know how to invest money. And I say, you're going to take this $2 million. I'm going to present to you 2 properties.
Right.
I want you to decide where you're going to invest.
Oh, for sure.
Do you invest into a place like Oakville, for example, or would you take that money and invest it into a place like Jane and Finch? And there's no disrespect to Jane and Finch. It's just the reality of what's happening.
It's just that, that's the first thing people ask for, especially when they're coming with the kids and everything. How's the neighborhood? What's the crime rate in that, right? A lot of people ask that. A lot of people realtor. I know your wife is a realtor as well.
Yes, sir.
And, first thing they look into how, schools, transit, but overall the safety, because people want to live in a safe environment. And especially people immigrants, they're coming out of the countries, where the crime rates are pretty high.
Yes.
And they are very protective, which is, rightly so, that they have those concerns.
Yeah, they not only come from a country that's very high crime, they also come from corrupt governments, corrupt financial institutions.
Yeah.
So they carry that all over here. I mean, you look at the sacrifice somebody has to make to leave their country where they've been for 30 or 40 years, their friends, their family. They're not coming here for themselves. They're coming here for their kids.
Yeah.
And yeah, that is a selfish desire. I mean, to do the same thing. I'm trying to set my kids up, but that's a big sacrifice only to come here to have the perception of the experience that the same thing that happened to me in the country that I fled from is now happening here. It's very disheartening. And, when I bring up that investment explanation, the reason I bring it up is crime impacts equity, equity impacts financial decisions. And when you are constantly paying off debt, whether it's principal or actual debt, when you're constantly paying that off, you don't have time to participate in the economic market, which means that local businesses don't thrive either.
No.
It's not an accident. You go to some of these impoverished communities and all you see is these mom and pop community centers and mom and pop restaurants and Circle K's and whatever restaurant, but you don't see big brands. You don't see big names. The other downside of that is they don't produce jobs.
Right.
How many people can a local breakfast place employ? Versus something like a bigger brand or a bigger name, or
I think
a whole bunch of issues.
Yeah, I think it's a mix what we need, but that big thing when when a industry is nearby or factory nearby or the construction is going on nearby, it's a big deal because there's a safety issues, right? It's going to happen. But like I said, a lot of time we don't take responsibility, to be very honest. And we get a little bit carefree.
Yes.
And then we complain about police is not doing their job.
Yes.
First of all, I know that's not enough police force to, guard every house in the community. But at the same time, I'm asking you because you've been there and done that. And so my second question was what are some of the challenges the police force focus in addressing these issues effectively?
Innovation, staffing. Those are the two things. And here's where I say innovation and staffing.
Wow.
They're two separate things. Those are the two biggest. The biggest thing is innovation. To tie in the first question with this question, what happened?
Yeah.
COVID did two things. It put a rocket behind innovation.
Right.
All right. And there's really three groups that drive innovation in the world. All right. Number one is the military.
Right.
Military and space exploration drive innovation.
Right.
Second to that is private business. Entrepreneurs, big markets, they drive innovation. And the third is organized crime.
Yeah.
Okay, they drive innovation. Government, unfortunately, is not the champion of drivers because heavy bureaucracy slows any sort of progress.
Right.
But these other industries, there's real consequences. So the military and space exploration, if you don't innovate fast enough, you're second in the space race, or you're going to lose a war, which is bad. And we're seeing what's happening now.
For sure.
In private sector, if you're not competitive in that market, if you can't cut your costs or increase more money or create or save time, well, you're going to lose. And then organized crime, it's all about money and opportunity.
Right.
What we saw in COVID was organized crime amplified their innovation efforts, and they went from before where they wouldn't really think about stealing cars to all of a sudden we saw all the technological safety measures defeated through innovation in the organized crime market.
Yeah.
They figured out how to do it. It's a high value market because you steal a car, you take off. And then you end up getting money for that car, not only here locally, but then as soon as it gets shipped out overseas, you're making even more money. So it's a thriving, lucrative criminal enterprise to be involved in. For us here, where the challenges are policing, governments don't innovate fast enough to be able to deal with it because we're always behind the eight ball. So innovation is us not being able to catch up to what our criminals doing. We find out after the fact.
Right.
Second to that is there's not enough cops on the street.
Yeah.
And there's not enough cops to do it. So when you look at the actual staffing size, a place like, I'll give you a great example. In Toronto, I'd worked in some of the hardest divisions, in 23 Division in Rexdale and 14 Division in Parkdale. At any given time, we only have, at some point, 10 to 18 cops out on the street for a massive area.
Right.
And now we have other resources we can bring in, but for your immediate crime prevention being, how come I don't see the cop on my street in a police car?
Right.
Listen, in a place like Oakville, you're lucky if you maybe get 10, believe it or not. At any given time, there's other resources where if you need help, you can call up and say, I need help. But
for sure,
if we don't have a visible presence, if we don't have the back end to be able to investigate these crimes thoroughly, and we can't designate the resources for another problem being, these are oftentimes multiple jurisdiction problems.
Yeah.
So I'll give you a great example. My friend's house got broken into in Joshua Creek 2 weeks ago. Both of his cars stolen. So bad guys come in through the garage. They manage to get in the garage, they get into the house because they leave the house
door open. Yeah.
Person comes in, finds the car keys, takes off with their exotic cars. Cars take off. They start GPSing and pinging. Stolen in Oakville, get pinged in Etobicoke.
Right.
The car gets located at another place in Caledon. So even among organization, there's 3 organizations there, and this car is most likely headed out overseas, which is now another country. So we have multiple different police organizations that need to talk to each other, law enforcement entities need to work with different stakeholders, being like Canadian Border and Services.
Right.
So you have all this delay in communication, really no effective way to do this. So right now, again, the innovation, the staffing, the partnerships, it needs to be driven federally on some degree, but also provincially on another. We almost need a provincial task force, which I know the Premier has started already, but the problem is so big, it's tough to deal with.
Oh, it's absolutely is, because like a lot of things, because we were in, safe place, and there was no need for those kind of investment, because Canada has always been a safe place to live. But the things that how fast things changing, after COVID, just like you said, like everything is just skyrocketed. So same thing, I can feel that over here, like in health system, right? Similar issues. Before that, everything was not bad, but now it's got bad to worse, because a lot of staff don't want to work. The other things was like people retiring, baby boomers, big time, right? Big time. So, and that's what bring the pressure on like system. It's like not having those experienced enough people. There's a lot of new recruitment happen as well, and those are some challenges which I can see from learning from you, learning from news media, like also like knowing people and how system works, right? So, and that's why I sometimes like question, okay, car get theft over from here. I'm okay, I can understand, because we don't have enough force. Then it's get transported in the truck transport, which we don't have any toll check anywhere. It's go to Montreal, right? And on there, it's getting shipped. So, and the border security force, like they don't check like what's going on this container.
Well, there is millions of containers every day in Canada that are getting exported out.
Right.
Our cars are getting exported out.
Yeah.
Now because Canada is a first world country,
right,
we are more concerned about what's coming in than we are on what's going out.
Right.
And I'll tell you, our primary considerations right now in terms of what are we checking for,
right,
is two things: drugs and human trafficking.
Right.
Okay, those take precedence over everything else.
Right.
And it's not to say that the people in charge of that, or the enforcement end of it, or any of the cops or border security or national services that are focused on this are not prioritizing it.
Right.
Again, just the sheer volume of containers going out. I mean, what is more concerning? Is it stuff leaving the country or stuff coming in from the national security level? National security is what's coming in, and the focus is drugs and human trafficking. Ultimately, I mean, there's real repercussions here. That's in the economy of crime.
Right.
So we look at these small things. We say, yeah, the person stole somebody's car. And
right,
the other issue is our terrible bail system. An economy of a decision is based off of, if I do something,
I know,
is the benefit outweigh the cost?
Yeah.
And when there is no cost to it, you're going to considerably do it at a higher level of degree.
Oh yeah, like I know if I'm not going to penalize for something, I say it's like a free ride. Like, a lot of people, when they already don't have integrity and they already don't have those, respect for people's stuff, like, this is easy. Like, and I got the free ride.
It is a free ride.
Right.
It is a free ride. And it's terrible. Right about a week after I resigned from policing, my old partners called me up and said that they had arrested two people in a stolen car with a loaded firearm, and they're on bail for attempted murder. And this is in Mississauga. This is literally one street over from where we live. All right. This is what's happening. That's a poor legal system that doesn't value the impact of what they're doing. When I talk about the economy of car theft,
yeah,
it's organized crime, and people forget what organized crime actually does. The sole purpose of organized crime is to commit crimes with a material benefit, but they are like any other industry, right? If you have a really thriving business, you're not looking at one source of income, you're looking at multiple sources of income.
For sure. Like, and you've probably seen a lot of underage, like, they hired people less than 18, 16, 17 years old, and they caught stealing.
Yep.
And that's also make, human rights and all that stuff, juvenile.
Youth criminal justice.
And
it's a great idea by criminal gangs to say, or organized groups to say, hey, look, we're going to find a young person to do it because it's a slap on the wrist in the Canadian justice system.
Yeah.
And for this kid, you're making $5,000 or $10,000 by stealing a car.
Right.
Where else are you going to make that money?
No.
And this money that they're making. So we look at, bad guys and organized crime groups coming in doing car thefts while they're stealing these cars, they're transporting through other groups, they're taking them over. Now we have international crime happening. Where's the money in there, and where's the money going to? We look at, what the theft is on a car, and you're making, $5,000 to $10,000 on a car, and then it gets traded in again, you're probably making another $40,000. Well, that money goes to purchase drugs. significant amount of drugs that get involved in international drug trafficking.
Guns.
And it gets distributed out. And the guns come in because when you have that much drugs and money, well, you got to protect yourself. There's no HR in criminal worlds. You can't go to human resources and say, I don't like this, isn't fair. That's why they go to violence. They kill each other. So when you have that, now you have increased gun trade, you have increased drug trafficking, you have increased murders and homicides, you have more public violence, which is what we're seeing.
Right.
And again, COVID ultimately innovated crime so much so that they started to do new channels, being car thefts.
Right.
It's a low risk, high yield crime. But then it continues to fund the traditional methods, being drug trafficking, human trafficking, gun and gang violence.
Right. No, I know it sounds crazy, and we are easy to blame on the system, but I think the real cause is because it's expedited so fast, and we don't have system in place, that precise, that make it difficult for a cop to do their job. Right?
Well, we have a priority system too. And the priority system is I'd say there's 10 to 15 cops out at any given time patrolling your area.
Right.
You know what else they're responding to? Homicides, domestic violence, a tremendous amount of mental health where people are either a threat to themselves or a threat to other people.
Right.
Suicides, robberies. Those all take precedence over a stolen car.
Well, for sure. Yeah.
So when you have those of all increasing as a result of organized crime and other impacts of COVID, it becomes a resource issue. Again, staffing. There's just not enough cops to be able to go after this.
And I know there's a different sections which is the expert on or the smaller force generated for neighborhood safety, just for example. But still from out of 12, there's only 2 who have to do it. And they're working hard. I know a lot of you work 12 hours to 14 hours, right?
You work long shifts, long hours. You try to, in those community roles, when you have community liaison officer, school officer, think of them more as a preventive and interventive step.
Right.
And they're prevention and intervention. What they are doing most of the time is educating members of the community. Say, these are the things that you could do so you're not a victim of these crimes. Well,
that's perfect. Because that leads to my third question over here, and talking about it's as a community member, what people can do to prevent these kind of crimes. Maybe not able to prevent, but how to protect themselves. Because car is gone, it's covered by insurance, and it's painful going through all that stuff. But at the same time, safety of the family, for themselves, for their hard-earned money. They build that house and somebody break in. It just not only take away your time and energy, that's frustration. So what are the basic things people can do to protect themselves? If you have a car that is one of those high value cars that are getting stolen, Lexus RX 350, Toyota Highlander, Honda Civics, Ford F-150s, there's one other I'm forgetting about. If you're that, look, do your best to do a couple of things. Number one is, if you can park your car in your garage, park it in the garage and shut the garage. Make sure your garage door is locked. Right. Number two is if you can get a club. Okay, club is that old device on Amazon. I think that's the best one, because like I said, even some of the terrorists were hiding. They were not using electronics at all, right? They were not using different way of communication and everything. I think technology make it easier for us,
big time.
Not only to protect, it can detect and inform you that that thing is happening, but in terms of also vulnerable to more break-ins, because they are smarter than, like you said, we outdated, and they are latest and greatest technology. And they know how to break in those sophisticated electronics in your car. And I was surprised to see that presentation happen, and some videos are happen, how they do it. And they have all those devices to take a code, to relay, and all that stuff. So I think the manual way is the best way to do it. Manual way, get that club in there. So park in your garage, get the club in there. Make sure you don't put your keys when they're in your house somewhere where it's easily visible. Most people leave it in the laundry room. If you come into that door, they leave it hanging up on there. All the time. Leave it by the front door. Find a cupboard or a cubby or somewhere where just you and your family know where it is. The other thing is, don't advertise where you're going and when you're going on social media. It's terrible. I talk about this routinely. I'm like, look, if you're going away on vacation, there's no reason to Yash is laughing behind the camera because I did a day in the life of Vish, and starting from where I go, what I do. And it's as much I want to share with us open, at the same time is some problems can happen.
It's a risk sometimes.
It's a risk, right?
And I will share some videos and personal stuff when I come back from vacation.
Right.
I don't ever announce when I'm going. I don't ever tell people. It's just
that's a good idea.
And then when I come back, then I'll post videos. Hey, it was nice to be on a beach in Mexico. Oh, you had fun with the kids. I always wait till I come back because I'm already at home.
I love that, when people say, like, I'm at airport, I'm flying from here to here.
I know.
And I'm going, I'll be back. And they explain everything. And it's like, yeah, that's a free ride you're giving to somebody too.
Telling somebody.
Somebody.
The other thing in your social media pictures, look, make sure you blur out your license plate, blur out your address. Blur out your kid's school if possible. I mean, we're asking a lot. What I'm saying is the perfect thing you could do. And the other part too is, obviously having a camera system, which just captures the theft happening. But again, I think the most physical things are keep your car parked in the garage, keep the car door locked. If you can, put another car at the end of your driveway to prevent that physically from being go crazy. And then keep in touch with your neighbors. One of the smallest things you can do to really help out is take a copy of your insurance and your vehicle registration.
Right.
Have a copy, scan and email to yourself or take a picture, because when you report that stolen, that's critical for police to be able to get that information as soon as possible. What is the VIN of your vehicle? What is a license plate of your vehicle, make and model, year, and then who's it insured by? It's absolutely critical.
Very small thing, but it's always in the glove compartment. People keep it there. And once it's gone, like, you don't have it.
It's gone.
And now you're looking into all over, trying to search your dealership and all that stuff.
It's a pain in the butt.
It's pain in the ass. So definitely, it's keeping that like and that's why we talk about that in real estate wisdom, is looking into those little points we just ignore. And sometimes it's such a small thing, which can save you a lot of hassle. So
I've emailed myself my driver's license, insurance, and registration, and my vehicle registration. And in my header of my email to myself, it says all those things.
Right.
Driver's license, insurance and registration, vehicle registration. So if I need to search my emails to find it, I can just type it in. I got to find it.
Oh, yeah. Keep it on cloud. Like I will say, it's much easier because your phone can die. Or maybe you left your phone in the car. It's not even there with you.
That's the other thing. Don't leave valuables in the car. Work laptop, phone, personal stuff, cash. Don't let them be visible plainly, because there's the risk of obviously organized crime theft.
Yeah.
And there's also the risk of smash and grabs.
I know it's annoying because we used to live like that, leave everything, worry free, but times have changed and we have to change how we behave, how we do day-to-day work. These days, I never thought about standing on the gas station and I get carjacked.
Yeah.
Somebody's come from back. Or you leave the door open and you go inside to pay, and by the time your car is gone. So we have to be considerate. And I know a lot of immigrants come out from those countries who already were doing that. They were here, they feel like, I don't have to go through it. Yeah. Common sense. But we can do that for sure. Absolutely. Now, let's talk about, what other reforms are needed in the system. And I know you put your name out there for North Oakville Burlington for MP position with Conservative Party. So I just want to know, with your experience and everything, what are the reforms which you are going to advocate? You're already advocating a lot. You connected with the current MP, MPP, all the people who can make some changes. So what are your ideas?
Listen, two big ones right off the bat. Number one is to change the handgun legislation that's been proposed and currently going through things with the Liberal government. Look, they want to spend $1 billion to be able to take away law-abiding gun owners' guns. And sometimes people hear that and they said, oh, guns are bad. Listen, guns are used for hunting. They're used for sport shooting. Guns aren't necessarily bad. It's the people and the intention behind the gun that's bad. A knife can be bad too. So can a spoon. Yeah. But what's happening is the federal government wants to take $1 billion towards this strategy. They implement it, and this has no result in the intended outcome. The intended outcome was to reduce violence involving firearms throughout the country.
Right.
We haven't seen any of that yet. The idea is then to take that money, let's split that up into 50-50. Let's give $500,000 to strengthen our borders to prevent illegal guns from coming into the country, which is 85% of crime guns are coming from the U.S. It's not Canadians that are doing it. It's coming from the United States.
Mexico.
Mexico, United States, down in the, anything in North America on that end. So we need to take let's take $500 million. Let's strengthen up our border through either more staffing or better technology to be able to catch these guns coming in.
Right.
Utilize joint force operations, let's work with the United States to be able to prosecute these bad guys and girls that are bringing in guns in our country, to be able to prosecute them in the United States. It's an international offense at this point here. We can prosecute them down there. They're going to get much harder jail times. These are for the worst of the worst. I'm not talking about some random person.
Yeah.
I'm talking back. Let's get them down there. So, and then let's take the other $500 million and let's put that towards root cause solutions to be able to mitigate the risks in social issues such as your family, your education, your peer group, you as an individual in your community. Look, we know that some things will work. There's not a high amount of social services that tend to work because the issues are so deep. They have a little bit of a push. They can mitigate some of the risk, but we know if we can comprehensively support all of those, we're less likely to have people get involved as either a criminal or become a victim of a crime.
Yeah.
So let's take that $1 billion, scrap that whole gun ban idea. Let's put it towards strengthening our border and technology. And let's put the other half towards strengthening communities and people themselves so they don't end up on this pathway.
Yeah.
The second thing I would change for, or I'd look to advocate to reform, which I've been saying since 2019, both of these I've been advocating for since 2017 and 2019 respectively, is our bail system. This is ridiculous what happened.
Oh.
It just absolutely changed in 2019. It was pushed by the Liberal government, and I'm not throwing stones. I'm telling you what happened.
Yeah.
And really what happened is, a lot of people don't know this. What happened with the bail system is there's 5 major cases in Canada.
Right.
Sex assaults, homicides, that took 5 years to get to trial. Now, under the Charter of Rights and Freedoms in Canada, that's a charter infringement. Everybody has a right to, a reasonably speedy trial. You can't be on bail for 5 years.
Right.
So the government of Canada said, well, what happened to these 5 cases? Because by all of them going to the Supreme Court of Canada, they were all withdrawn only because they said this took way too long to get to trial. So homicides and sex assaults were the administration of justice said, what happened here? We need to look at this. And when they looked at it, they realized that on average, the government was responsible for only the accused, the person, the bad guy, was only responsible for about 5 months of that total delay. So the onus was on the government to say, we screwed this up, so how do we innovate this? Now, if you actually read through the legislation and the conversations before the bail system changed, what happened was they realized that a significant portion all across Canada of the things that was clogging up our court system was breaches of bail. It's people who were released, they were charged, they were released, they promised all these conditions, they went out, they didn't follow them, and they were charged again. They realized there was this huge influx of people that were bogging down our criminal justice system that were on bail offenses. They look at those bail offenses and they said, well, they're just bail offenses, but let's see why they're on bail in the first place. But they treat them as separate things.
Yeah.
So they didn't take that into account. And then part of the conversation was, and it got brought up in the legislation as well as some of the justification to change things, was they said, well, there's some populations and some groups that are overrepresented in our legal justice system, and they are overrepresented in terms of the total failing to comply in the bail system. So the position of the government at the time was, one of the many positions was, well, if we were to, in my opinion, fix the bail system, we would be over-policing and over-marginalizing these communities that are already overrepresented in this organization.
Right.
What they fail to recommend, or what they fail to look at, is who are the victims of these crimes? It's the same people.
Yeah.
Right. So not only did they decide to, in this bail system, this magic thing of we're going to make sure that all trials get to court within 18 months, not only did they say we're going to, adjust it to speed that up, but they just said this. I want you to imagine this. This is what they did with the court system pretty much.
Yeah.
Imagine you and I own a McDonald's restaurant.
Yeah.
And in the McDonald's restaurant, we realize, holy cow, from the moment somebody orders to us delivering the food, it takes 5 minutes, when in reality it should take less than a minute.
Right.
And we sit down and we say, well, what are we going to do? Now we have either 2 options here.
Yeah.
We can either have another McDonald's and hire more staff and innovate, or we can reduce our menu items and close those doors a little bit.
Right.
The government closed their doors and reduced the menu items, which is the worst thing you could possibly do.
Right.
They should have innovated there. They didn't do that. Instead, they just closed the doors. They minimized the entry into the court system. And now they're saying, oh my God, crime has increased across the country. How did this happen?
Right.
I'm not a PhD, but I'd like to think I'm a reasonable person with common sense.
Yeah.
I'm sure I could have forecasted this happening.
Wow.
So when you see that happening, it's absolutely terrible. I'm not saying that the bail system doesn't need to be improved, but what we're seeing is raw evidence right now to this day that this did not work. This, in fact, backfired because crime is almost, in some areas and some types of crimes, has doubled. The criminal severity index in Canada, which is something used to measure since 2014 and 15 has skyrocketed. It's almost doubled.
Yeah.
And we're seeing it now. And what we're seeing it manifested into communities like ours and like everybody else's, where you're seeing homicides, drug dealing, human trafficking, car thefts, auto thefts, organized crime. It doesn't take a genius to say, guys, this was a terrible idea.
Well, the thing is, one thing is not only on this side. I'm not sure, because I have seen on the real estate side, when government is making the decision about interest rate hike or the stress test, those kind of stuff, and see how many times they involve the, people in the industry, like it's from mortgage industry, let's say, or real estate industry, how many times they come and sit down on the table and say, hey, what are you seeing and what do you suggest and what your ideas are? So on the same line, do people involve from police force, from the community, when they're making these laws and, bringing out those policies? Do that happen, or is that, just somebody who's like, that's how they feel, that's what the input they got, and they're making those decisions?
No, they do bring in experts in every industry. So even on that legislation, when I read it from beginning to end.
Right.
They bring in police chiefs, they bring in victims of crime, they bring in advocates, they bring in all these things. And then they also bring in the other end, being, criminal defense lawyers, people in jail. They want a complete wraparound perspective. The problem is what dominates the perspective, and who is at the table, and who's the one saying, well,
money?
I'm kind of looking.
How much money is going to spend?
I'll say votes.
Right, votes. And also, and that's what the one thing, it's not a political debate or anything or comment on that, but one thing I say, when you're coming to the country, there shouldn't be any division, caste, religion, sex, whatever it is, right? Your gender, nothing should matter when it comes to law. Right? There should be one law for everyone. Doesn't matter. To me, there's only two kind of person. One who are contributor, and the other one who was just taker. So you can say the good or bad people, but those kind of people who come, who build the country. When we came over here, we came with 2 suitcases over here. We work hard, and that's a land of opportunity, and that's what we did. We admire. But then when somebody coming in over here, and also not immigration system, not screening what kind of people you're bringing in over here. Are they going to be the contributor, or are they going to be a taker? And I know it's hard to judge, like I said, not enough force there. And that's sometime internationally we got blamed for, what kind of people we're bringing, and they're creating problem, because just like you said, what's coming in, it matters to us, but what's going out, it doesn't matter. And I said, hey, you have those people out there who doing some damaging to our country or other world. But yeah, those are the challenges, and those kind of things, that reforms needed, and it's needed now.
Yeah, right now. It is needed yesterday.
It needed yesterday, but now it's, if we don't do that, anything about it, it's going to be too late, and we won't be proud of living over here. And right now we're so proud living in the safe country where we respect each other. But respect is not just like a human being, but if you're doing wrong, you're wrong.
Yeah, I agree. Well, look, I had the benefit and the privilege of being born here, right? I was born in Toronto,
right?
Here. And growing up, all my friends, we were all Canadian.
Right.
Did we go through racism at the time? Yeah, but no, whatever. Somebody would say something bad to you, and you just go, that guy's an idiot, and you move on.
Yeah, for sure.
That's the way it was.
That's right.
And then growing up here, I had friends from every nationality, but everybody was a Canadian.
Yeah.
And 75% of Canada's growth now is immigration.
Right.
Okay, that's the biggest growth surplus, and we need it. We absolutely need it. We don't have enough.
We're getting 450,000 people every year now. So.
We do. Now it becomes the type of person coming in here. And I'll tell you, one of the things that strikes me here is, and it's one of the reasons I had to resign from policing, or I chose to resign from policing, was I ran as the first candidate under Pierre Poilievre.
Yeah.
In Mississauga Lakeshore.
Right.
That came up as an opportunity. It was a great chance I didn't want to say no to.
Right.
I'd been doing community work and advocacy work since 2017 very publicly.
Right.
On the same topics we're discussing today.
Yeah. Yeah.
Capital investments in impoverished communities, incentivizing big business to come in to create jobs, having education that's meaningful and purposeful, that's going to lead to outcome being engineering, entrepreneurship, innovation, technology, something where we're going to help contribute back to
Right.
the country as a whole in terms of a positive way, strong families, and respecting people's individual beliefs. I think that's a core value to it. The other part was public safety because they're all tied hand in hand.
Yeah.
So when that opportunity presented itself and I said, yeah, I'd love to do it. I believed in Pierre. I was thankful for the opportunity and the friendship we've developed. And he said, look, we'd like for you to run here. I said, yeah, for sure, I'm going to do it. And during that campaign, I came in with a lot of experience in terms of law enforcement and justice. One of the things that struck me out the most, and it's been like a highlighter for everything I've done, and it really opened it up, was I was out there campaigning, knocking on doors to multiple different cultural groups.
Right.
You name it, it's there. That's Canada. That's what I love
right.
about Canada.
That's right. Yeah.
And every one of them, every one individual group that was an immigrant group here, being that they weren't born in Canada, they came here, and they're Canadian citizens or PRs or they can vote now. All of them at some point had said the same thing. And I was like, man, you're right. They said we want to be recognized as Canadian.
And that's true.
First and foremost.
Absolutely.
And it's so important. And when you're having that conversation with people from all over the world, from different countries, and they're saying, look, you know how much we sacrifice to be here? We are Canadian. We're citizens. Our kids are born here. We're Canadian. Give us that first before you say anything else.
Yeah.
And what I've noticed is that is very important. I think it's so crucial. And then the other part to that is growing up here, I have never felt more divided here than now. Like you look at our neighborhood, it's such a diverse neighborhood.
Yeah.
But then what we're seeing is when we have, the benefit of Canada and Toronto in particular, GTA, I'll say is that if you want to see the world, come here.
Yeah.
If you want to see the world on a budget, come to the GTA because you're going to get the food, the music, the people.
Yeah.
The culture. You're going to just come here and spend a month, and you'll learn about the world here.
Oh, for sure.
The other part to that is that what's really sad and really scary is we're seeing things happening in other countries because we lack that Canadian identity.
Right.
Impact us here.
Yeah.
Like major problems in other countries are coming here and they're creating wedges between friends.
I know.
It's crazy to me.
And this is the part, I know it could be controversial. Some people might be agree or not agree about it, but what I think, what's happening, a vote bank politics and we dividing people. I know we identify people, what they want to do with their, religion, their rituals, having their identity, to preserve, because they move from other places. But any of those things shouldn't be affecting everybody else around them. If you want to do, anything, no, why are you doing it on the road?
I agree.
Right? Why are you doing it in the public? Do it in the private. Invite people, and they will come. And I see, I love going to Chinese festival. I love to go to Eid, right? I love to go to, I can have lots of friends in all those ethnic culture. But at the same time, what happens is, if it's creating something for them, differently, like I said, most people want to be a Canadian.
That's it.
Right? And being Canadian means, we had the combination of all. So we're not getting recognized as you're black, brown, white, colored, whatever, and all. I say I'm Canadian, right?
And you are,
and that's how I want to be recognized, and that's how I want to work, and not saying, this is what used to happen. It's worse than there. When you come over here, and that's the other thing which I don't like about, to be honest, when people coming over here, they already know what kind of country it is, where we, with open arms, we accept everyone.
Yep.
And if you don't like something, then don't try to change it, because you came and choose this country because what it is, right? And now you're trying to change that because it doesn't suit you or your beliefs. That's not right.
I agree with you there. I think if you want to be able to participate in that discussion, get involved.
Yeah.
You get involved in the right ways.
Yeah.
Without divisiveness. Bring in your perspective and share. And there's a role for that. You do need a wide variety of perspectives at the top for people making decisions, because a decision might unfairly impact another group. And that group can say, look, or the group can say, look, we tried this idea. Let me tell you about how it actually went. And maybe there's a better way to do this. But we don't engage in those conversations. It's just so divisive and hateful. And it's so concrete, and you can't. It's like even sitting at the same table as somebody else is a problem sometimes.
Oh yeah, it's people, and that's what it says. Don't discuss people. Discuss solutions. Discuss issues, not people.
I agree.
And the issues are definitely looking into that. When, let's say, I study in small elementary school, and then I see my friend, he's getting treated differently, he's getting different privileges and everything, and because he's speaking about it, it's mean to him. They're doing it, but at the same time, I say where are my rights?
Yeah.
Where are my rights, right? And that's a diverse happen, and that's why you see the more hate. There's only pinch of people, I can say small. That's a small pinch of people, but because they're speaking, they're loud, it gets spread out. The majority people who don't want it because they don't have a time to look into, and they just ignore it. To those people, I said, you're responsible for that, to create that positive environment, to do it, and that's what I like about our community. Right? There's some solutions we're talking about, suggestions we're talking about. I manage Facebook group as well. It's, and we can see the diverse conversation. And my rule is, doesn't matter. I'm open to all kind of conversation. Just make sure you're talking about issues, not saying if somebody said that and said, you mean this is okay, and then go after them. It's not going to help. It's not going to help.
No, you're
Let's work together to make things happen.
I agree with you.
Right.
And even on the immigration end, you talk about, we talk about our growth. Look, the ones who come here, and which is the large majority.
Yeah.
The large majority come here for a better life. They work hard. Their education's not recognized in this country, so they're doing anything and everything. It's a hard life.
It is.
It is a hard life for those people. And then you have the other small minority of people that take advantage of the system, get involved in crime.
Yeah.
Which just happens. And
easy way, right?
It's an easy way, and the problem is then it paints that same brush to everybody. And then not only do the good people who come here to try to make a good life and do whatever job they need to do, whether it's drive Uber or work in a restaurant or be security,
right,
which tends to be the ones in our community, I'll say, right? Not only do they have to deal with that obstacle, but now they have to get that extra brush paint out of them for some people, you're like everybody else. It's not. It's so hard to break that barrier. And I think it's so important to, again, reconnect to that pillar of, hey, man, if you come here and you're willing to leave everything you have, in my mind, you're a Canadian.
Yeah, for sure.
You're fighting for that. And you're good with me as long as you play by the rules and you contribute back.
Oh, for sure. Definitely, those are the things which the community have to do. And I know you're a busy person and now going to be busier.
Yes, sir.
Not only with your volunteer work, but also for campaigning and stuff. Just summarize it, these are the reforms which needed, which you can do as a, advocating and taking all the issues, because you worked on the ground level.
Yes, I have.
You work at the ground level, school, youth, soccer club, coach being there, you're doing your motivational podcast. You have seen both sides of the things. You also inspired a lot of police officers as well. I see your fan following. Fan following, I see on your social media. It's huge. And taking all that aspect, it's huge because you did it on the ground level. It's not there just for photo op.
No.
A lot of people say. But yeah, you're really doing those stuff. So based on that, let's narrow down and see these are the things which needed, and these are things which community can do and help you.
Oh, listen, the community number one, this is a political nomination campaign. So my platform in itself is really focused on three things. All right. It's public safety. Number one is keeping our community safe. And that we can definitely do at the legislative level federally. So it's really influence policy and money and laws to say, look, where do we need it? We don't need it in a million things that don't matter.
Right.
We know what matters, and we need to start investing into that. It's all these small things that communities care about.
Right.
We have the shootings and murders, and they're absolutely worth going after. We have to go after these people, but we cannot neglect these small crimes that are funding these big things. So it's going after that, changing the bail system. Number two is economic development. We know there is a straight tie-in and corroboration and a correlation between economic development and crime, especially in the in the world we're in now, where people can't afford a house. That's indicative of so many other economical issues.
It is I know it's we're just summarizing. I just want to give that example. You won't believe how many fraudulent stuff I get along with rental application, fake credit scores, fake employment letters, fake references, and all that stuff. And look into that. I feel sorry for them as well at the same time, because they cannot afford it, or they didn't make right choices in their financial planning and decision they have data on spending and stuff, and now they end up even with the relationship, like separation and everything is going on.
Tough.
It's really, really tough. I think a lot of people probably don't want to do it if they get it. If we give the job opportunity, if they give them the easy way to get into the system, and that's the other issue which we had for a long time, that we have the highly educated labor in our country, right? Doctors, people coming on the point system, everybody is graduate most of the time.
Yes.
But now also we're looking into the trade side. We don't have enough people to even build those houses.
No, we don't.
Right?
Now that's what we're relying on, immigration.
Yeah.
To fulfill not just the high skilled jobs, but the jobs that, for whatever reason, Canadians don't want to do.
Yeah.
We haven't valued that because it was, go to school, become a doctor, become a lawyer, become a engineer, which is fantastic. We actually need that, but we also need people to build, right? We need that, and that's a very high valued position right now. My brother-in-law's an electrician.
Yeah.
Guy's doing fantastic.
Yeah.
But did anybody encourage that? No, he found that on his own.
Yeah.
He's like, you know what? I think I'm going to do this. And initially, when the entire family heard he's going to go an electrician, we're all like happy for him, kind of nervous. You want the traditional right? Go to college, go to university, and he ended up finding his way there. And now he's a full electrician and he's doing really well. But that should be encouraged as well.
Yeah, for sure. Well, the social media and all that stuff, like what he did, it's also making it easy. And the COVID did that's also work from home and kind of stuff. So people got a little bit lazy. I'm sorry, but yes, no, sorry. That's creating that issues as well, because nobody wants to do the manual work because they can just sit behind the computer and they can make easy money. And that's creating the issues as well. So there's multiple issues. But you know what? We're running out of time.
Yep.
What are we going to? We're counting on you as a community.
Thank you for sure.
And thank you for all your hard work in doing this. I know, a few years before, you don't even have an aspiration to go in the politics at all. But knowing that what you can do, what you can contribute, it's definitely is going to help the community. Definitely going to help our government. Bringing expertise like this, which they can count on.
Yeah.
So thank you again so much for coming to our podcast.
Thank you for having me.
I'll see you next time.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
All right.
Thanks.
So this is Real Estate Wisdom Podcast related to everything which you can get around real estate. It's a vast amount of people who coming and sharing their wisdom, their insights, what they see as a professional, as a volunteer, to get to know, so you know how system works and what you can do about it. So keep watching. If you haven't yet, subscribe to our YouTube channel, Apple Podcast, Spotify, and follow us on social media. Thank you for watching. Have a wonderful day. Bye for now. Disclaimer. The information provided in this podcast is for informational purpose only and should not be considered as financial or investment advice. Consult with your professional before making any real estate decisions.